RPGs as the genre stands is one of the most fascinating genres for RPGs as a whole. You know, you got some of the greats out there like Japanese role playing games, you got MMORPGs, but I feel like action RPGs, depending on who does it, can always do it like a nice, good spin on it, right? It's always fun and cool to see developers try to form the genre into their own creative ways. And in today's episode, I feel like this dev team have definitely spun it in a nice way, and I really like the blend. Today we're diving headfirst into a game that's actively trying to not hold your hand and is quite similar to a lot of other games that may be outside of its genre, like Stalkers 2, levels of exploration, and most of the combat similar to a lot of third-person action adventure games as well. The game of discussion is about Hell Is Us, a new action RPG from publishers Nacon and dev team Rogue Factor that's shaping up to be quite truly a unique, almost horror experience. If you're tired of quest markers and GPS in your games, you might want to actually pay attention to Hell Is Us because they have something quite unique for us. And I want to kind of touch base a little bit on that. So let's talk a little bit about the overall gameplay. Right from the jump, Hell Is Us makes its intentions clear. It is a warning from the developers pops up right on the screen telling you straight up that there's no map, there's no quest markers. This game demands your full attention across the board. You need to absorb all of your surroundings for clues, listen intently to any conversations you're a part of, and also you need to stay vigilant as well. It's a bold move, yet, and honestly, a breath of fresh air for those of us who is craving a genuine sense of discovery. And one of those things that I want to make really known into, and they kind of make it really known for, is the philosophy of the conversation system, which is surprisingly a little bit deep, right? Now, of course, this is the demo, so we didn't get a really chance to see a lot of it. You got mainly 2 conversations out of the demo that you're going to be a part of, but your interactions with NPCs aren't just flavor text. They're actually vital to understanding the world and progressing your mission. The information that you gather or even miss can completely alter the entire flow of a conversation. Some characters might provide crucial clues for your main objective, while others may delve into the lore of Hedea, the current world or country that you're sitting in, and you can explain its culture and history just by asking a few questions. Now, there are no quest markers. Now, the reason why I'm harping a little bit on this because it's very odd for action RPGs to kind of have a no sense of direction. If you guys know of any action RPGs out there that kind of does something similar, please let me know, because from all the ones I've played, I've never seen one where they basically do not hold your hand. And it's very similar to something like Souls-like Dark Souls or even Bloodborne, where there's no quest direction. So you can see where it takes a little bit of inspiration from there as well. But overall, it gives me kind of like this vibe of like Stalkers 2's way of exploration. But the only concession you really get is a compass. Now, you can use this compass to actually tell what direction you're in. So if an NPC that a given location is on the west side, your better bet is to pop up the compass, see where it's west, and go that way. But then even some like an NPC, your second one, he goes, hey, watch out for the marked trees, that marked with an X trees out in the woods. It'll lead you to the direction you need to go. So if you're going in a direction, you need to be looking for those marked trees. But let's say if you skipped that part of the conversation, you wouldn't understand like, hey, I should be following these marked trees, and it would just be overall weird. So it's the context clues. It's like, it's not hand holding. It gives you a sense of survivability and a sense of like, damn, like it's rewarding the player for paying attention and actually involving themselves in the world and lore of this game. This system really just pushes you to be quite invested into the narrative and the world around you. Speaking of invested in the world and narrative, let's talk about the action. Now, of course, Hell Is Us is an action RPG through and through at its core. Its combat and overall gameplay mechanics has some intriguing mechanics to go about. The most standout about that is the healing pulse system. When you hit an enemy, the particle ring appears like around your character. You can then trigger a pulse ability to convert those particles into health. However, the amount of healed that health that you retain back is directly tied to the percentage of damage that you've dealt. So it is a high risk, high reward, very somewhat reminiscent of Bloodborne's kind of like rally system that they have. But the immediate thing that I picked up on right away when I was playing the game was that I will say the pulse system is a bit to pull off, because you're technically not even guaranteed to get that health back. There's been too many times and times again where I will attack and it would be like grayed out, so I can't use the pulse ability. So it's like you really gotta be careful with how like you're attacking to make sure you can really reap the rewards of the health that you're trying to receive back. And it can be a little bit hard sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment and you're in combat. It's been too many times, like I said, I've tried to pulse and it just won't, because these goddamn monster alien motherfuckers are really just trying to clap my cheeks, and it hurts, it hurts. So sometimes you might have to just gotta pull out the med kit to fully get your health back. But of course, you're not alone in the fight. You also get a companion drone that can also help assist you in combat, primarily by distracting the enemies, which can be a lifesaver when you're quite overwhelmed. And it kind of gives you a nice little example of that in the demo, as there's multiple enemies. You can throw the drone out, he would distract one, you can worry about the others. But in this demo, you can only really use that ability. But as you pull up your overall HUD menu through the little tablet to see like what needs to be done next, or like equip your stuff, you can actually see that there's more things on the drone that you can actually apply to. So it's actually pretty good to know that you could be able to do that. But also, in true action RPG fashion, we got to see how dying works in this game, because this is where it diverges away from like that Souls-like formula, and the death system in Hellas Us is also quite punishing, but it's a little bit more fair in a way. If you die, any conversation, any discovery, or any puzzles that you have completed are actually saved at your last save point, because you can manually save. I don't think there is any autosave. I did not see an autosave throughout this entire demo. The only time I was actually able to save is when I walked up to the overall, looks like the like lie detector test, which that's a little bit part of the story, like little tapes that are around. You can manually save in game. Now, I feel like that's a little bit more tied to the lore, because your character basically is telling this hidden person about what actually happened thanks to a truth serum. So they're taking a lie detector test. So I like that, like when it came to the manual saving in this game, it's like he's remembering key points of the story that he is telling this other person, right? But here's the kicker. All of your weapons and loot will actually reset to whatever you had at the last save. This is actually forcing you to be a bit more strategic and encourages you to use those save points quite often, because by not saving properly, any levels you gained with using your weapons can reset. So if your weapon is sitting at a level 4 and the last time you save was when it reached level 2, well, guess what, brother? It's going back down, because technically making your attacks much weaker. So it's an interesting take for punishing players, and I actually kind of like that. It's a new system. I've never really seen a game do something like that. It's like, damn, instead of just making me weaker, it just makes my attacks weaker. Or any of the loot that I've gained, I lost that loot and I now need to re-find or try to grab new loot. So it's not like on Souls where like you lose your way of leveling up. It's just making your overall things you've gained, like your weapons and loot, just harder to come around, or make it harder for you to level up, making you have to level up twice as much than you normally would. So definitely save as much as you can. Next, we have the endurance system. So this is another interesting take on health and a stamina bar, right? So your health and stamina bar is actually directly linked with each other. So your maximum health will actually dictate what your maximum stamina is. Now, as you continue to take damage, your maximum stamina will also decrease, adding another layer of challenge, force you to play defensively when injured. And that actually was like, damn, that's crazy work. Like, I didn't think like that. I like that. Like, playing this demo, this demo probably lasted me about like an hour and some change. Like, it was fun. I had a good time playing it. Didn't really notice anything, but I was like, damn, this is where the difficulty kind of sinks in, because the more you lose health, your overall stamina to do more things is dropped as well. And it's like you need to make sure that you're keeping everything in check in order for you don't actually run out, because if you run out of stamina, you go into an exhausted state, meaning you are way more vulnerable. You cannot really dodge, and all your attacks are at like an extremely slow pace. So you got to make sure you're playing defensively and offensively as good as you can. And then last but not least, we have the puzzle system. Just like the rest of the game, Hellas Us wants you to figure things out on your own, which I really like that. I like when games just let me just play and I can just get lost in the world and just figure it out. Puzzles are cleverly integrated into the environment, which basically means you need to be exploring and having good observation to try to piece together the solution without any direct guidance. This overall commitment to players is just something I really appreciate in games, and I like when devs give the time to let us play it. There's a couple of puzzles throughout the demo that, like, if you just kind of sped through it, you probably wouldn't even be able to solve the puzzle, because it's a lot of looking at on the walls and stuff. There's different hieroglyphs, stuff like that. Like, you gotta make sure you're paying attention to the overall world to truly understand how to solve these puzzles. And at first, like, some of the first puzzles are very simple, but then it's like, I gotta do a little bit of researching, a little bit of searching around, digging, and trying to figure out, maybe re-talking to the NPC to see what was the point that we were getting at, or really just looking at the context clues. Like, they do a lot in the demo, so I can't wait for September for that to drop. But of course, we got to talk a little bit about the visuals and audio. And like I said, this is an action RPG with a kind of horror or a haunting atmosphere. I will say visually, the Nacon team and Rogue Factor has done a great job, a fantastic job at the game's look. Just the first cutscene you come across looks quite impressive, with a high level of detail and polish that really draws you into the world. And sometimes the cutscenes can look a lot different than the actual endgame, and I feel like both cutscenes and as well as the endgame gameplay it really meshes together and it really fits. And on top of that, because there is nothing to help you in this game, the user interface is incredibly clean and it's very minimalistic, but it has just a unique flair, especially when you open up your tablet to like change your weapons, look at like what's your current quest like that you're looking at, like, and other information. It gives you like this nice subtle pixelated effect, and I just like it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's a small touch, but it just adds to the game's distinctive aesthetic. And one thing I do want to make notice of is the creatures that in this game. The creatures, man, the way they move are just unsettling, right? And the noises they make is just like, oh my God, it feels like I'm playing Silent Hill, right? The violent head shakes and that they're like basically getting jiggy with it as they're walking towards you. It just gives off like the Silent Hill nurse vibes. And it's just genuinely unnerving, and it just adds to the horror of the game. And it's like, I was playing this game like, is this an action RPG? Is this just a horror game? Is this kind of both? Is it like all over the place? And the same thing like when you think of Stalker 2. Stalker 2 in essence is not a horror game. It's not your traditional sense, but it has a lot of horror elements that kind of adds to the spookier vibe when you're playing Stalker 2. So when you're playing Hellas Us, it gives you that same exact feeling. And on top of that, all of the characters, like the voice acting in the main cutscene, was pretty good. I actually really enjoyed it. The delivering of the lines were very believable and really engaged me in the narrative at the jump. Now, the score, though, the game score gives you this oppressive, atmospheric, leans into that dark, melodic tones that perfectly set like this dreary mood, and the sound effects that the monsters are making, they're unsettling, enhancing like the game's creepy ambiance that it's going for. And overall, I was generally having a good time. Granted, it is a demo. I will definitely like to see the game's full release to see what else this game has to offer. I believe it drops September 4th this year, so definitely, if you guys want to check it out, I definitely go recommend it. But so far, Hellas Us is shaping up to be truly a compelling action RPG that isn't afraid to challenge its players. The emphasis on exploration, the lack of hand-holding, and the interconnected combat and survival systems create a unique and demanding experience. If you're looking for a game that respects your intelligence and actually rewards your perseverance, Hellas Us might just be your next obsession. But I will be keeping a close eye on this one. What do you guys think of Hell is Us? Was this something you'd be interested in? Have you played similar games to it, like Stalker 2? Just let me know in the comment section below. And also, don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more gaming content. And as always, stay safe out there. And it's been your host, Chaos DTV, signing out. Peace.